Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new direction. Actually, welcome to the coaching show. My name is Jay Izzo, and I go by Coach Jay. And we had some technical difficulties. We typically will have a guest, and we had some issues with that today, and it did not go the way we had hoped. And so today we're going to do a coaching show where we are going to talk to you about coaching. So if you have a question, um, I'd be more than happy to answer for you. That everybody's watching live or listening live, and I appreciate you doing that. But I would love to answer your questions if you have them. So feel free to just go ahead and jump on here and wherever you're at, and we will go ahead and we'll go ahead and we'll answer your questions today. Is what we're going to do. At least that's the plan. So. I am a life and business coach, and what I do is I work with clients from all over. I do it remotely, and I talk about all sorts of things. I mean, my typical thought process is that there are no such things as real business problems. There are really personal problems that infiltrate business. It seems to me that every time that I have coached anyone, and the people that I coach now, while there are some business issues, it seems that when you handle your personal issues, those business issues tend to melt away. And what I mean by that, well, if let's say you have issues with getting sales, well, typically I find that if you're the owner of the company, the reason why you don't have good sales is because you have some issues in regard to sales, or you don't have a good relationship. You don't have a good relationship with selling, or your method of leadership doesn't work because you have this personal agenda that infiltrates into what you think should be right, and it's not working, and you're not willing to change. I find that oftentimes when I work with people who are, especially clients, I find that oftentimes their mindsets are a little bit off. And one of the things that I uh, really, really try to talk to people about is four mindsets. And Dr. Ryan Goffredson was on the show a few weeks ago, and we talked through the four mindsets. Are you in a growth mindset or fixed mindset? Are you in a promotional mindset or a prevention mindset? Are you in a closed mindset or an open mindset? Are you inward or outward in terms of your mindset? And I find that wherever you lean in those things, because we're so unaware of where we're at when it comes to mindsets, that what happens is we think we are, for instance, we think that we're more outward mindset, but then we do little things that demonstrate that, well, actually, we're pretty selfish. And so what happens is when we're selfish, right, it's very difficult for us to be glad when somebody else has success, right? I mean, check yourself here. I mean, do you ever, whenever you see someone that you know, right, and they have this great success and you don't, do you feel a little jealous? Okay, that's an inward mindset, right? So it's something kind of silly. Have you ever been on the highway and somebody, or down driving down the street, and somebody's got their blinker on to get in front, but you don't want to let them in front, right? Well, that's an inward mindset, right? So we have to check ourselves because we're probably not as growth oriented, open, promotional, or outward as we'd like to believe we are. Now, we're on a journey, okay? And thanks Mona and Nikki for tuning in. You know, we're on a journey here when it comes to our mindsets because, you know, you might say to yourself, well, I'm a promotional mindset, or maybe you don't even know what promotional mindset versus a prevention mindset. Well, let me explain it this way. The prevention mindset is that you're trying to go into protection, right? You don't want to lose something. The promotion mindset is more risk taking, right? And so what happens is that people get caught up into this idea of they want to what they want to do is they want to protect what they have, right? They don't want to lose what I currently have. So then they get real conservative and they don't want to take a risk. They don't want to try to, go to the next level. They just want to stay with what they have. And that never works. Hi, Nikki. And that never, ever works. So if you want to be successful, you can't do it from a conservative point of view. You can't do it from I'm going to hold on to everything and just try not to lose. You have to take a risk. There has to be risk. There's no risk, there's no reward. Right? And that's where people get stuck. And the truth is that it's the same of, the fixed and growth mindset. Everybody wants to think that they're all about growth mindsets. And the truth is we're not. Typically we are more fixed. We kind of have these ideas that, what, things are the way they are. You can't change them. And there's, you are what you are, you're given what you're given, and nothing else is going to be affected. And that's just not true. That's not true that you're going to just be that way. The fact of the matter is you have uncharted waters that you have never even tapped into yet. And you don't even know what you're great at. And here's this. You haven't maybe tried to know what you're great at. Because part of the problem is with most of us here is that we think, well, this is what I'm going to be the rest of my life. If there's one thing that I've learned, and I coach my clients on this all the time, it is that you have not even tapped into what you know. And let me explain how I know this. I was later in life when I discovered I had talents that I didn't even think I had. I never went to school for them. I've never studied for them. They just have happened, and I love what I do, but I've never went to school for any of it. I went to school to do something completely different. And so what happens is sometimes education gets in the way of us being successful because we're so hell-bent on saying, well, this is what I studied for, so I have to do something in this field, rather than understanding that what you have is you've got these natural talents, gifts, and abilities within you that you haven't even tapped into yet, that may make you completely successful in ways that you don't even know. I mean, so for example, I started doing broadcasting, and I have no broadcasting degree. I have never taken a broadcasting class. I never have, ever, in college. And what happened is I wrote a book. By the way, that's another thing. I wrote 4 books. I've written 4 books. Some translated in foreign languages. And I've written 4 books. And the truth of the matter is, I was a horrible English student, but I love to write. I'm awful as an English when it comes to writing English. Right? I literally went to remedial English in college and got a C. I've written 4 books that have been awarded. Well, how do you do that? Well, first of all, I love to write. Secondly, it's called an editor. And I hired great editors, and great editors clean up your English, right? So I never self-edit myself. And matter of fact, that was one of the first things, one of my favorite editors of all time, Suzanne Murray, Style Matters. She told me, she said, never self-edit yourself, just write. I'll figure it out. And that book wound up being awarded and got a gold medal and silver medal and is in foreign languages now. I didn't know I was going to be an author. Clearly my education didn't say I was going to be an author. Then I wrote the book, and then what happened is after writing the book, right, I was doing all these interviews on radio shows and TV shows. And one radio show liked me so much, they asked me if I would do a segment on their show. So I did a segment on their radio show for a year and a half. And then the host of that show said, you need to have your own show. And so he helped me get started in this whole podcasting. And the next thing I know, we've done over 200 shows of an hour in length. I've interviewed some of the best, greatest authors of all time on this show that have come back and returned. I I mean, and I love this. And it's now a TV show. I mean, there's people who watch this show on TV all over the world. It's available, on DB TV, which is available on Apple TV. And we're literally available all over the world. We're in over 250 million homes on a TV show. That's cr- that's crazy. I never went to school for broadcasting. I never thought I would. That that didn't happen. The same thing is with my speaking career. I speak all over. I had no idea. Right? I've never taken a speech class. I had no idea that I was going to be paid to speak. Right? And then coaching. Right? I had no idea that coaching didn't exist when I graduated college. So the point here I'm making is that you don't even know what you could be. You don't know what possibilities are inside you because you've stopped exploring. You've stopped taking a risk. You stopped taking a chance. You stopped dreaming. When we were kids, right? We used to dream. We'd just go, oh man, I'm gonna be an astronaut, or I'm gonna be a princess, or I'm gonna be the president, or whatever it was, right? We used to dream about all these things. I'm gonna be a fireman, I'm gonna be a doctor, whatever it may be, right? And then life taints us. Yeah, our parents may have said, oh, you can be whatever you want to be, but they were like, I got to say that. Right. And then what happens is you don't know what you could be because you don't know, you haven't tapped into your natural talents, gifts, and abilities. There are things out there, I'm just telling you, that you probably love or you're interested in at the very least, that you haven't even thought about saying, well, how can that turn into a purpose or a job or a career? Well, the first thing I'm going to tell you is that start with, what are you interested in? What interests you? What piques your interest? Is it talking? Do you like to talk to people? Are you interested in speaking? Are you interested in writing? Are you interested in animals? Are you interested in cooking? Are you interested in how things work? Or do you like working? Are you interested in working with your hands? Right? It's called affinity. What are some things you have affinity for? You want to unlock yourself? Start with dreaming again. What do I like to do? What do I enjoy? What am I interested in? What is it that I really enjoy doing? That's the first place you start. Right? And if you want my advice as a coach, I would tell you this. Start by literally doing this. Make a list. Right? Make a list of things that you enjoy. And then you're going to ask a second question. What am I good at? See, so many people are good. Everybody's good at something, by the way. We're all good at something. And by the way, there's things that we're good at that we don't even realize we're good at, or we take it for granted that we're good at because it comes so naturally. My dad never put it together, for instance, that my dad's gone now, but my dad never put it together that he had this brilliant mind for numbers. He could calculate numbers like crazy in his head. He did square roots in his head. He did all this stuff, right? He never put it together that was a ticket for him to do something else. And he never understood it. And so often what happens is when I ask people, what are you good at? They go, I don't know what I'm good at. What do you naturally do? I do numbers well. I draw really well. I speak pretty good, or, I care a lot, right? Or it could be, I have this knack for being able to plant plants or fix a car or see how puzzles are put together. What there are things that you're naturally good at. So that's called aptitude. That you have an aptitude for it. And sometimes you don't know you're good at it because you haven't tried. I never knew I was going to be good at this broadcasting thing. I never knew. I never dreamed in my life I would be doing over 200 shows. I never dreamed that I had clients to do coaching. I never dreamed that people would ask me to go speak. I never dreamed that I was going to write books. Never. Never. I never knew I was good enough to be doing that stuff, but I am. And you are. You are good enough. You're good. You have things in you that you're good at. So couple that with your affinity, things that you like to do, and then couple that with things that you're really good at. Compare those two lists, and you start to see some crossover. But then there's a third thing, right? And here's the third thing. You ready? The third thing you look for is, what do people tell you you're good at? See, that's the big one. And sometimes we don't pay attention to when people say, oh, you're good at something. And it can also be subtle because they won't just come out and say, wow, you're really good at that. Some will. I mean, I remember a friend of mine I was doing a show and I was interviewing this author who happened to be a friend of one of my friends. And he was in the next room watching the show live, and the show was over and he said, bro, you're meant to do this. That's affirmation. But sometimes the affirmation comes in different ways, right? It's not just you're meant to do this or you're good at this, but sometimes so people would just go, wow, you're so talented. This is brilliant. Wow. How'd you do that? That's affirmation, by the way. When people go, how did you do that? How did you do that? That's affirmation. So when you start putting together, what you enjoy doing with what you're good at, which by the way, you have to discover, and then people are telling you you're good at something. And if you compare those three lists and you start to find the commonalities, you start to find this little area that starts to reveal your natural gifts and abilities. By the way, there are so many that you have, so many, because I know that there's more things that I have yet to do. I just haven't discovered them yet. And I'm look, I'm older, but I know that there's more things I have not discovered yet that I'm going to be good at. Because I don't know. This is where you've got to go out and you have got to try. And so that's what you have to do. I've got a question here from Judd Weisgull, who joins us on the show. Hi, Jay. I've often seen folks stuck in a rut. What suggestions do you have for getting out of that mindset? Well, that's a great question, Judd. So when you're stuck in a rut, right? And we've all been there, right? Where we've been stuck. It's sometimes very difficult to pull ourselves out of the rut. Very, very difficult. It's because what happens is we have this tendency to spiral down. We never spiral up, by the way. We always spiral down. And unspiraling ourselves can be tremendously difficult. But it does start with one key thing, and that is our self-talk. And so I'm going to ask you a question, everybody out there. What is your self-talk? How are you talking to yourself? Are you saying, you know what, it's just never going to get any better? I'm stuck and I can't get out. I'm so dumb. I'm miserable. I'm stupid. I want you to think about this for a second. Think about the things that you say to yourself when you're stuck in a rut. And then I'm going to ask you this question. If your friend was stuck in a rut, would you say those same things to your friend? Of course you wouldn't. Nobody would. Nobody would say the things that you say to yourself if a friend of yours was going through the same thing. So why do you say that to yourself when you should be your own best friend? When you want to get out of a rut, when you want to get out of the depths of the pits of hell, right? Or you want to move from one place to another, first thing I do is check, what are you saying to yourself? What are the words that you're saying to yourself? Are you your own best friend? Literally, are you saying things to yourself that you would not say to anyone else? Then why are you saying them to yourself? You see, that doesn't, you want to get out, you want to change, you got to start with what you're saying to you. By the way, when you start changing the way you talk to yourself, you start changing the way you think. And so how do you stop it? The first thing you have to do is when you hear yourself saying something negative about you, you've got to say, "Well, that's not true. That's just not true. I'm good at this, I'm good at that, I'm talented with this, I can do that. There's other possibilities." And then when you start changing your self-talk, here's the next piece. All right? You need to find a trusted friend, right? Just one trusted friend that you could say, "Hey, look, I'm starting to turn my mindset around on this, but maybe you have a thought that I don't have. Help me get perspective." So once you start changing your mindset, right? You start changing your self-talk, that changes your mindset. Now what you do is you start going to someone else and you say, I'm trying to turn a corner here, but I need a fresh perspective because I am not seeing this for myself. I am in this rut and I'm not seeing it for me. So can you help me get out of this rut by giving me a fresh perspective that I may not be thinking about? Now, this requires that you be open, but also requires that you be vulnerable because you have to tell people you're in a rut. Or maybe you're feeling depressed, right? Sometimes we just need encouragement, right? I talked about affirmation. Sometimes we just need to be encouraged by others, right? And by the way, attitude helps us so much, right? You're in control of your attitude, right? I say it every week, right? We're in control of our attitude, our effort, and our resilience, right? You control how you could control your attitude. It's not easy. Listen, when things are going south and going bad, it's not easy to control your attitude. But here's the thing, folks. If you want to start getting a grip on your attitude, start looking for things that you're grateful for. And just keep writing them down. Just keep writing things that you're grateful for. They're out there. You're breathing. I'm living. I had a cup of coffee. I have a friend. I got a dog. Got a cat. Right? Maybe you have a hamster. I don't know. Start writing things down, though, that you're grateful for. Because when you write down things that you're grateful for, when you demonstrate gratitude, right? When you have gratitude, that starts to change the way you think, too. And gratitude is so critical. And by the way, the more you practice gratitude, the more you stay in gratitude. And the reason why I like writing these down, and I write down my gratitudes on a little card, and I write down my gratitudes. But the one thing I love about writing down gratitude, and I have a jar for all my gratitudes, that when I'm having a bad day, and I do occasionally have a bad day, I can pull out one of those gratitude cards, read those gratitudes, and you know what? The thing that I was just worried about, because I'm worried about all sorts of things, or I'm stressed about something, if I can pull in one of those gratitudes, you know what? I'm still grateful. Still grateful for it. By the way, when it comes to your effort, right? Because I say you're in control of your effort. Can I just say that effort is up to you? I got another question from a Facebook user. How do you overcome health issues when trying to fight for your dreams? That's a great question too, by the way. Thanks for asking the question. You know what? Health issues stink. I have no other ways. They just really stink. And when you're trying to fight for your dreams and you're having health issues, and listen, uh, I have faced my demons with health from time to time. And here's my thoughts on that when it comes to health issues. I'm going to always do the best I can and 1 + 1. What does that mean? What that means is, I've had health issues like I had COVID so bad for 17 days, I could hardly breathe and probably should have went to the hospital. I didn't, right? And it was really bad. But all my goal was I'm just going to do what I can do plus just a little more. Just a little more, right? So I remember that's kind of always been my signature when it comes to health issues. I'm going to do what I can do, and I'm just going to do one little bit more. I think sometimes what happens is when we're facing health issues that we think we have to be able to compete with people who are healthy. You can't. You can't do that. You you just have to do a little bit more than you can do. Not much. We're not saying, gosh, when I say +1, I don't mean 1,000, I don't mean 100, I don't mean 10, I don't even mean 5. I mean just a little more. Depending on the health issue, if you could do, if I can read 10 pages, I'm going to read, maybe a half page more, 10% more. Maybe it's one more paragraph. I read 10 pages, I'm going to read a paragraph more. Right? So I just did one more. See what I'm doing there? Right? If it's, if I can't get up and walk, I can always learn. Right? And if I can't read because my eyes are watering and I can't do it, I can listen to an audible book. So I think sometimes when we're facing health crises, sometimes sometimes it's God's way for us to stop and start listening. And sometimes what we need to do is just we need to learn and grow. So sometimes it's not about, you doing something. You say, well, how do I fight for your dreams? Well, maybe part of fighting for your dreams is learning more about them. Maybe fighting for your dreams is becoming more of an expert in that thing by listening. There's always you don't have to always do. That's my point. When you're facing health issues, you don't always have to do. Sometimes you just have to sit and listen and learn. And by the way, when sometimes your health is so bad that you're trying to learn and you're just exhausted, then again, it goes back to do what you do +1. Meaning that, okay, I'm going to learn as much as I can. And then I go, okay, I'm tired. I'm just going to listen to a little bit more, right? That's +1. And then I'm done. Right? Because sometimes when it comes to health, right, we just try a little bit more, not much. And I'm not asking for much, just a little bit more, and then put it down. And that's kind of my rule of thumb when I'm sick or when I'm not feeling well. Do what I can do +1, and then I'm done. Right? And especially when it comes to things like dreams, I would say that is a great way for you to, help fight for your dreams. Stop, listen, learn. Do what you can do +1, and then after that, it's okay. And by the way, if your health issues are so bad that you like, I got to sleep. You know what? Rest is an important part of our recovering on our body. So rest. It may be the very thing that you need for it to fight for your dreams. Right? But the worst thing that you could do is beat yourself up because you feel like you're not doing enough. Right? So listen, learn. Whoever you are, Facebook user, thanks for putting that out. Listen, it's top of the hour, and I planned only doing this for a little bit of time. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun for me. Thank you to Judd and Arash and whoever's listening out there, and Mona and Nikki, the Facebook user, all of you who have been watching the show. I want to thank you for doing that. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a coaching show. Who knows? Maybe it's another show. I just haven't thought about it yet. And so, see, this is how that works. See, this is how this works. This is something I never even thought we would do. And now I'm doing a coaching show. I got a few questions. Oh, thank you, Facebook user. Very encouraging. Thank you for saying that. You know what? That encourages me. Whoever you are, Facebook user, you just encouraged me. And what you also did was you affirmed me, Facebook user, whoever you are, by you saying that very thing on that says thank you is very encouraging. You just affirmed me. That's powerful for me. You just told me that I'm doing the right thing. You did. And that's really, really powerful. So thank you to who you are out there. Anyway, so Mona, Nikki, Arash, Judd, Facebook user, all of you who are watching, I just want to thank you for your time today. Listen, this was not a typical show, but maybe, like I said, maybe it will be a show in the future. And maybe we'll just open it up for questions and we'll just do that in the future. And I hope to see you again soon. And you know what? I'll advertise it. Feel free to find me on Facebook. You can look at Internet Doctor JIZSO, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. I think it's Coach J in Instagram. Yeah, I know it is. It's Coach J Izzo on Instagram. So feel free to connect with me. And you know what? Maybe we'll make this a regular habit as part of a show and get your messages. And who knows? Maybe at some point we'll even have you call in. Ooh, that would be scary. All right, to all of you everywhere out there, I appreciate you so much. I love you. I really do. And I thank you so much for being with me today. As I say to you everywhere, all over the world, ciao, everybody.